Welcome to another episode of Unlocked. Today we're going to talk to Kristen Kaufman about the very important topic of alignment. And the reason why this is so important is because so many people have problems with this topic. And we're not just talking corporate alignment, although that is a big piece of what we talk about. We're talking about personal alignment. And in order to understand personal alignment, we have to understand ourselves. And first of all, where we are aligned or where we're misaligned and why those things are happening. Well, Kristen is an expert in this area, so much so that she named her company Alignment Inc. Yeah, Alignment is the core name of her company. She's the founder and CEO. I'm going to give you some credentials here on Kristen. Hold tight while I read this to you. This is crazy. She was an executive at various companies. She has worked with Accenture, Hewlett-Packard, Frito-Lay, Amazon Web Services, Boys and Girls Club of America. She's held executive positions at Hewlett-Packard, at Vignette Corporation, United Health Group, where she was in charge of $3 billion in revenue for this stream at Hewlett-Packard. She's trained over 1,200 principals in the NYC public school system. She has worked as a coach for a long time. She's got 3 books out currently. She's about to write a 4th. We talk about those extensively in this interview and why they're so important. She has certifications, Georgetown University Leadership Coaching Master Certification, ICF certification for coaching. She got a BBA from the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville, education at University of Education, Duke University, Southern Methodist University. She's certified in Myers-Briggs, the Leadership Circle certified, Thomas Kilmann certified, DISC certified, Polarity certified. She's done a lot of work in adult development, and she's Pat Leccioni 5 Dysfunctions of a Team certified. And if she's missed any certifications, please let her know. I'm sure she'll go out there and get one immediately because she is well credentialed. Now that we're through that, I want you to pay attention to this topic of alignment and why it is going to be shifting the way you think about what you're currently doing and asking questions about, am I in the right place? Or is this seat taken? Little bit of a preview of the book stuff. Okay, here we come, Kristen. Hello, Kristen.
Hey there. How are you?
Oh my gosh. So good. I'm so good. Especially because we get to talk about alignment today, which is a big issue. I don't think, here's the thing. I don't think people realize it's an alignment issue. They say it's other stuff, but when it comes down to it, it's probably an alignment issue. That's my theory.
Yes. My definition, Scott, of alignment is when you love what you do, you're good at it, but most importantly, it's tied to something greater than yourself. And most of the time when people are out of alignment, one of those 3 legs of the stool is out of whack. And that's what makes them out of alignment.
Okay. Name those 3 again for me.
Okay. You got to love what you do. You want to be good at it. Most importantly, the most important leg of that stool is having it tied to something greater than yourself. Because if you think about it, if somebody doesn't love it, they're probably not going to be that great at it, frankly. And if they're not that great at it, they're probably not going to love it, right? Because people don't typically like to do what they are not that great at. But most importantly, that longevity, that sustainability factor is when it's tied to something bigger than you.
Okay. So then how do you apply that in the corporate space? So I can see that from a personal standpoint, like a personal brand standpoint, or getting fulfillment out of my job or whatever. How do you tie that back to the corporate space if I'm a corporation?
Oh, yeah. Oh, you mean outside of being an individual?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, same thing. So, I coach on alignment with individuals, teams, and organizations. And if you're not aligned around a common vision, a common mission, if it's not tied to something bigger than you, it's all about the numeral uno of the human being as opposed to a team or an organization, it's almost always out of whack. I mean, I coach people all the time, I'm sure you do as well, that have lost somewhere along the line, they've lost the plot, either individually or collectively, they've lost the plot. And when that happens, they're not only are they out of alignment, but they've lost their direction. strategically. And, it's a recipe for failure, quite frankly.
That it is. That it is. So tell me this then. So you've written these books. Your company is Alignment Inc. Like, holy moly. So you're all about this thing. You've put your stake in the sand. Like you are the alignment person.
I
Yeah.
have put my stake in the sand. When I bought the rights to that name, I literally bought it from an automotive wheel alignment company. Because
Okay.
back in
That's
the
cool.
day,
Okay.
alignment in business, that wasn't really a term that people were using a lot. Now, of course, it's become commonplace, but that was 20 years ago when I started this company.
Well, that was a smart automotive person that bought that name a long time ago. So, you
Right.
know?
Hmm.
So okay, so here we go. We got this alignment thing going, and now you've written 3 books around this idea.
Yeah,
And Is This Seat Taken is the title of them all, but they all have their own thing going with them.
they do.
Yeah.
They do. They do. I mean, how this whole thing came about was when I was a corporate executive myself, and I found myself being out of alignment, quite frankly. And I'm sure many of your listeners might resonate with that, where you wake up in a hotel and you're like, what in the world am I doing here? I'm miserable. I no longer am fulfilled doing what I'm doing. And honestly, when I was traveling the globe, because I was running a $3 billion business unit, so I was traveling the world, I kept journals of these random people that I would meet. And I had this line that I say, incidental encounters are not incidental at all. And all of those random meetings fed into me coming to the awakening that I'm out of alignment, you know? And that's what these books are. They're collections of stories of lessons that I learned from often random people, just experiences that I had. The seat is a proverbial seat, not necessarily an actual seat, right? It's a seat metaphorically, and how they informed my decision to, write a new chapter and to ultimately leave corporate and create my own company. So that's kind of how the impetus began for these books.
Can you go through the three and kind of tell me like what's the structure of the first one, second one, third one, and fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th? So, I mean, we're gonna go Fast and Furious series on
Okay.
this one. We're getting ready for all 10 of them. So here we go.
Oh, I love that. Okay. Well, the first book was Is This Seat Taken? The Random Encounters That Change Your Life. And it's a collection of stories of people, from a man that I met at the Admirals Club in LaGuardia to a woman I met behind the Iron Curtain back when, Checkpoint Charlie was still in place, and everything in between. And the encounters, the wisdom, frankly, from the experience that I learned. So that's the first book. And that book was scary because it was the first book I'd ever written, and I wasn't sure it was going to land. And lo and behold, they all became bestsellers, not New York Times bestsellers, but definitely bestsellers on Amazon. The second one was actually driven from my clients, and it's called Is This Seat Taken? It's never too late to find the right seat. That came about because so many of my clients, and I'm sure many of your listeners might resonate with this, they wake up at age, 35, 40, 45, 50, whatever, and they're like, okay, this dog doesn't hunt anymore. I'm no longer fulfilled in my career. Now what am I going to do? Is it too late for me? And I thought, it's never too late. So I researched 15 people, some deceased, some still alive, that literally reinvented their life, or in some cases invented their life post the age of 60. And that book is fascinating because they're people that you know of them in a way that where they're already famous or they're already uber successful, but you don't realize that how they came about it was through incidental encounters. Just like what I wrote about in the first book, it was very serendipitous about what I learned about with those people. And then the last book is the Seat Taken? No, I Saved It for You. And that by far and away, Scott, is the most vulnerable of the three, where I literally opened my proverbial kimono and I shared my most icky bits with the reader. And in fact, my sister said, have you lost your mind? You're sharing some things that really are pretty vulnerable. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to share it. And that was by far and away most people's favorite book because it's so vulnerable. I mean, I just go there. And in fact, when I read it now, I'm like, oh, did I really write about that? But it's helped people. So there you have it.
You shared your icky bits, Kristen.
I did. I
That's
shared it
crazy.
all. Well,
That's crazy. Well, here
there's,
we go.
you hear that vulnerability is power. And I do believe that. I mean, you kind of, look the tiger in the eye and you put it on paper and it goes away.
Well, it lets down everybody else's wall. I mean,
100%.
if you're letting your wall down, I'm going to be much more likely to let mine
Right.
down too.
That's right. That's right. So that's the third one. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What's your biggest takeaway from each one? And what's the big message from Random Encounters, from Never Too Late, from No, I Saved It for You?
Yeah.
What's the main thing that you learned or that you want to get out of that
Yeah. A
for the
couple of
audience?
things. The first is I do not believe, I mentioned this a minute ago, that incidental encounters are incidental. I truly do believe that when people cross your path, they're crossing for a reason. Our job is to pay attention. There's that wonderful little adage, you have to be present to win. Well, you have to be present to win. So, the big takeaway is you've got to be awake to the moment. That sounds so woo woo and a little bit esoteric, but I truly do believe it. That if you're awake to these people that crossed your path and you think, what am I supposed to be learning from that 300-pound man that's sitting in the middle seat who will not give me my armrest? What am I supposed to be learning from that guy? Right?
Mhm.
There's always a lesson. So that's one big takeaway. The other big takeaway is that it's never too late as long as you have breath. So I think as long as you're on this planet, there's a reason why you're on this planet. There's a whole story in that second book about my near-death experience and where my father said, well, you have a reason for being here, otherwise you wouldn't be. And that's true for all of us, right? It's true for all of us. And so that's the other big takeaway. It's just never too late. As long as we have breath and we're on this planet, then we can do anything we really want to do. It just comes down to how badly we want to do it. So those are, I think, the big takeaways.
Okay. And as you've learned from your own experiences and from others, you have honed in on the idea of alignment. Why has all of this brought you to the idea of alignment? What is that?
Yeah, it's like the definition I said before. I think if you love what you do, you're going to be great at it. And so many people, Scott, they get themselves into those golden handcuffs and they get tied for money, power, status, fame, whatever. And somewhere along the line, they lost the love of it. And that is frankly, a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because when you've lost that, then you're probably not going to be happy. You're not going to be as good at it as you once were, yada, 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 yada. So to me, finding that alignment within yourself, which by the way, is a ever-changing definition, right? I mean, I was certainly aligned when I was successful in corporate until one day it was no longer fulfilling to me. Didn't mean that I wasn't always in alignment. It just meant that I outgrew it or I grew into a different chapter, right? Same with where I am now. I love what I'm doing now. Is this a forever thing? Probably not. I don't know. You know, so staying aligned with your purpose, what it is you want to do, how you want to contribute, which by the way will change. Aligning that with your strengths and your skills and your gifts and all of that, all of that to me is where we become our most successful, our most prosperous, our most fulfilled. And we know that, right? As human beings, we know that it takes a lot of chutzpah sometimes to jump off the high board and to leave the comfort of that security of a corporate job or whatever, right? I mean, it did me until one day you wake up and you know what you know what you know, and that is no longer it. And that inertia goes away because what you want overrides the inertia of staying where you are. Does that make sense?
Totally. And I have seen too many people in my personal and professional life who were held back because they were so enthralled or, of the money, of the stock options, of the everything else that held them to that place, the golden handcuffs that were, oh, that's really hard to leave that thing. And, companies, that's how they, were retaining people for a long time. Then we saw people, post COVID and start throwing money at everybody to
Oh
say,
yeah,
hey, you come with me. I'm going to give you a, $50,000, $100,000 signing bonus. You just come over to this side, and people are like, ooh, I'm gone, and then they go and then they're miserable. And then you're
right.
like, well, yeah, I know how tempting that can be. And I'm not saying I wouldn't be tempted too, but when it doesn't align with your true purpose, the impact you want to make, when people have to understand what that is first before they can understand if they're aligned with that thing. So
Yeah.
How do you help people do that?
Well, there's a whole chapter, or not really a chapter, it's really like more of a workbook and chapter in my third book that walks through things that you can do, questionnaires, getting to know yourself, because I do believe the answers are within us. Full stop. The answers are within us. You're not going to find answers outside of yourself, quite frankly. Now, those outside of yourself might be pointers, like they were all these people that I met. They were pointers. They were mirror reflections. They were all of those metaphors, right? But the answers were within me, full stop. And so that's really where I try to help people peel back those layers. What is it you really want? If you were given a terminal diagnosis, what would you do? When you were a kid, what did you want to grow up and do? Somewhere along the way, we lose that, right? And that's, they say come as little children. And I think in many ways, that's our responsibility is to get back in touch with that. Right. So
Yeah.
I definitely think it's self-awareness. I think it's looking within. There are lots of tools and things that I offer up that can help you do that.
Cool.
But there's no easy answer, frankly. You know what I mean? You don't call up 1-800-OPRA and get the answer. It just isn't going to happen,
Yeah, it's a process.
It
for
is
sure.
a process.
And
Yeah.
can you give me a little something? Give me a little bit of give us a little, like, maybe what's one of your real profound questions, or one where you start people to kind of just start on that journey. What's an exercise or a question they can ponder?
Here's one of my very favorite exercises. And I actually learned this from my coach when I was leaving corporate, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew that wasn't it. And she said to me, and this is pretty powerful. She said, I want you to write a letter to someone in your life, and I want you to mail it to them. And I want the letter to be as if you were living your life, the life that you want to live 1 year in the future, as if you're already there. And this is probably going to make me cry, Scott, I'll be honest. So I wrote this letter. This was back literally 20 years ago to my parents. And it started off something like, Dear Mom and Dad, I can't believe a year ago, I left this big fat corporate job. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And here I am 1 year later, XYZ, living my life. I'm making coffee in my own coffee machine as opposed to ordering it from room service. I'm able to walk my dog, because I'm at home now. I'm contributing to people that I respect and that respect me in a way that is totally fulfilling to me. I'm creating my own brand, my own legacy. I'm writing stories that are meaningful to me, yada, yada, yada. And it was as granular as being able to do yoga in the morning in my own home. It's very specific. Well, fast forward, my parents died a few years ago. And I'm from Hot Springs, Arkansas, and I happened to be at home cleaning out our main house in Hot Springs in my dad's desk. And I found that letter that he had kept, Mother and he had kept. And I'm reading this and I'm like, well, holy Toledo. Every single thing in that letter had come true, except being on the Oprah Winfrey Show. That was the one thing that had not happened.
But you're on my show, Kristen. You're on my show. So
I know exactly. Well, it's better. And it was kind of ironic that I'm reading this and it had all come true. And I'm a believer in setting your intentions, writing out that personal manifesto or that personal vision of where you want your life to be 1 year in the future, as if you're already there. And it's sort of like it puts the wheels in motion for yourself, but also for the universe to rise up to meet you. Because I definitely believe that that is indeed what happens, right? But it's not going to happen if you can't visualize and say what it is that you want. But that exercise of writing that letter 1 year in the future as if you're already there, man, it's a powerful one. It is a powerful one.
Did you ever tell your coach that happened?
I tell her that all the time. Yes.
That's
100%.
awesome.
She was absolutely the single most, other than my parents, single most influential person as I made that transition from a big corporate job to entrepreneurship, authorship, all the things that I do now. Because she gave me permission, right? To dream big and to live life large and to not feel confined to do so in a conventional way, aka corporate ladder kind of way.
And it's so important. I've noticed recently with a few people that I was coaching that and especially some new leaders that come in, they get so bogged down with the thing they're supposed to be doing, like the competency of filling out this thing or knowledge about this type of sales tactic or that, and they just get so intertwined and
Yeah,
so caught up in the hows that they sit there and go, why am I of value? This person knows more than me. Why am I in this job if this person knows this process better than me? And I'm like, you're not in this position to know the process. You need to know enough about it not to be an idiot. But I mean, it's what are you bringing to the table and then helping them discover that thing. And it's all inside them. They just get so clouded over with the immediate thing in front of them that they don't think big enough, far out enough to
right.
understand the bigger impact that they can make on the
100%.
organization.
We become
So
our own limiting force in so many ways, you know?
so many ways, so
Yeah.
many ways. It's this thing, and I read something the other day that we are going to be the hardest person convince out of anybody ever. But yet we're also the most persuasive thing we could ever be to ourselves. Like
Yeah.
we can convince ourselves to do something or not do something.
Mhm.
And so we will get in our own way if we're not careful, but we can also enable ourselves in a good way to achieve great things if we let ourselves.
Yes. Yes. It's very liberating, really, you know?
It is. How have you, is there a story or somebody that you've worked with that has experienced this alignment
Oh,
transformation?
yes. I mean, I'm so fortunate because I would say most of my clients have achieved that alignment where, I mean, I have one client in particular who was a big corporate, she's a female, she was a big corporate executive as well, went into a different field altogether. I won't disclose all that because people know a lot of people know who my clients are, but she went out on her own to build out this new career. And not only has she exceeded what she was making financially in her corporate job, she has her own time schedule. She has her own, she can pick her own clients. She can do all of that. And her fulfillment in her career is so much greater now, right? Was it an easy road? No. There were some false starts because I tell people all the time, nothing's permanent. So if you're not really sure, just take the first step. And if it's the wrong step, pivot left, pivot right. I can't stand the word pivot, but turn right, turn left, you know, it's not like once you've chosen that that's the only direction you can go. I mean, we're human beings. We can turn right and turn left all day long and on Sundays, right? So yes, that particular female definitely has found alignment, and it was very liberating. Another female, and not all my clients are females. I have probably more male clients than females. She also left a job with a company. She was miserable. She'd been there for 17 years, a very talented publicist. And she decided to go out on her own to really follow her passion to be a publicist for like NFL players that were writing their books on their experiences, yada, yada. She is on fire now in tremendous demand in a field that she loves, in a vertical that she loves. And, it's all about, to your point, getting out of your own way and just diving in. So yes, I have a lot of examples of people who have followed exactly what I was just saying. They've written out their manifesto, kind of how they want their life to look, and lo and behold, it happens. Right?
Well, let me ask you this, because I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot. I'm going to say, okay, so Kristen, you experienced misalignment. You went out on your own. You found something that you were aligned with that you could create an impact on. The last two experiences, you've also mentioned that they were people in corporate jobs that went out on their own and did their thing. So how do people, not necessarily, not everybody wants to go out on their own. Not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody wants to, be a consultant, whatever.
Right.
What about the people that are in their jobs that they currently hate, that they're just like, I'm not aligned with this anymore. I loved it before. It's just different now. But I don't want to go out on my own. What's my opportunity?
Yeah. So here's how, and I have probably more corporate people, honestly, than I do entrepreneurs as clients. It's about finding an organization or a culture that aligns to your value set. That's what it is. And by the way, I will go out on a limb and say this: if you are not aligned to the values in which the company for which you work, what they believe in, if you're not aligned to that, you're in the wrong job, because you might be making a lot of money and you might be, managing a huge organization, la la la. But if it's not in your core to your value set, whatever that is, it's not sustainable. It's simply not sustainable. And I can give you one particular example. There's a healthcare executive who's been a coach, been my client for many, many years. He went out in a different corporate job, big opportunity to do, venture backed, big IPO opportunity, lots and lots of money. It was a mismatch from the second weekend. The values of the leaders were not aligned, to use the term, with his. They were money hungry. They were not mission driven. They were not integrity driven. They were not culturally, holistically driven. They were just money, money, money. And it was like a complete awakening for this executive. And he thought, well, I'll power through. I'll power through for 18 months until we are able to take it public, and then I'll cash out. It didn't work that way. He was miserable, made the decision, I'm out. I'm going to leave. And he did. And he went back into an organization that was mission driven, was more of a ministry type, where he could really get his feet and hands into a culture that resonated with his heart and his value system. And he is phenomenally successful. And so, it all comes down to that whole success definition too, right? I mean, it's not all about the money and the position. Yeah, we're on the earth plane, so we got to make money, and we want to make money, but that is not the end game. There has to be more to it than that. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I love the values conversation. We experienced again a lot of that during the COVID era, and we kind of had forgotten about values a little bit before that. It did get so, and then all of a sudden big things are happening in the world. And then all of a sudden it's about humanity, and we're talking about all these things. And then, you have racial disparity topics coming up again. And then everybody's like, again, about values, and we represent DEI over here. And everybody's like, no, you don't. And then there's other people saying, well, we are for the people. And they're like, no, you're not. And so there was a lot of calling out on some of those organizations too, that said they were one thing that weren't. And I think that, the values conversation is ripe, and
it is
understanding your values as a human being, and understanding how you're aligning your values to a corporation that you're, taking a job with, or starting your own company, and making sure you don't lose sight of that, because it is easy to lose sight.
Oh, it's so easy.
Those things.
Yes.
What's the danger of losing sight of that?
Oh, well, you find yourself in a pool that you don't want to swim in, frankly. 9 times out of 10, when I'm talking to a corporate executive who finds themselves in that, they're either in the wrong organization. They've lost themselves, quite frankly. They've lost themselves, which is the real big danger, right? Mm-hmm. So either way, and by the way, they're very symbiotico. When you lose yourself, you can oftentimes find yourself in the wrong pool, because you think, oh, the water over there looks so gray. And then you get in the water and you're like, ooh, this doesn't feel right. Well, right. I'm speaking in metaphors, but I think you're tracking.
No, I'm there with you. I think and I love that oftentimes it's because we've lost ourselves, and without doing the self-discovery piece, so many people just want the end result without doing the work first, the self-discovery, the inner alignment piece that sounds froofy, but there's so many people that don't do the work, and then they're like, I can't find anything. I can't do anything. I don't know why. I'm never happy with this. And then they complain about it.
Yeah. Inner alignment to outer strength. I have an online course that actually that's what it hones in on, is peeling back those layers of yourself so that you can show up the way that's authentic to you. And that's when we're our most powerful, full stop. No question about it.
Love it. Love it. Love it. So where do people find out about you and your books? And I mean, all the things you're going to do. I mean, you're, you're concepting a fourth book now. You're
I
like, I don't know. I'm in the middle of writing my first one. I don't know if I ever do it again, but you are like, I like this. Like this whole fourth book thing sounds enticing.
Well, I'm writing a book about legacy.
That's important because most of the people I talk to want to leave a positive legacy behind them. Yeah.
Because we're all kind of long in the tooth. Many of us are getting long in the tooth. And so we begin, and if you've ever faced mortality, I faced it 3 times, you have a sense of urgency because you never know when your number's going to come up. And so you feel a sense of urgency to contribute and to live on past yourself. I've never married. I don't have children. So it's not going to be through a DNA, contribution. It's going to be through something else, some ripple, some book, something. Many people are facing the same reality because we're all getting older. And we realize that the time that we have left is much shorter than what we've already burned through in life, right? And so there's this sense of urgency. How am I going to create that legacy? So that's what that fourth book is. And to answer your question of how people can find me, there's a website, KristenKaufman.com, my name, and there everything's on there. All of my social media handles, my courses, my books, it's all in one place. So that's probably the easiest way to answer the first question. Sorry, I wasn't trying to not answer that question. So
No. You're a pro at this. You know where you're going. You took a little detour, but you came right back to it. And as long as we get to the destination, Kristen, I'm all good.
Yeah.
So that was awesome. Thank you so much. It's been a delight talking to you.
Me too, Scott.
I mean, the fact that how aligned I am with your thinking makes this just that much more fulfilling for me as an interviewer to kind of just be able to nod my head the entire time and just say, amen, Kristen, amen.
Well, we're kindred spirits, perhaps in some ways.
In some ways, we probably are. And I think that there's a lot of other kindred spirits out there that are listening to this, nodding their heads, going, amen, Kristen, amen. Because you've said some things I think would resonate with a lot of people. I think that experience you have resonates with so many people. I never lived that big corporate life. I've always been with smaller companies or as an entrepreneur, but my clients have, and my friends have, and I have family members that have. And while I haven't lived it, I've seen from the outside everything you're talking about. And it's so needed what you're talking about. So I'm grateful that you're out there preaching it.
Thanks. Thank you. It's very fulfilling to me, for sure. I've worn the moccasins, so I can speak from experience.
Well, have an awesome one, and thanks and good luck on your 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th.
Gosh. Fourth is enough for right now, but thank you. Thank you.
The definition of alignment. Love it? Are you good at it? And is it something greater than yourself? Is it creating an impact? So when I talk and do why workshops with individuals, we talk about what's your contribution, what's the thing that you're bringing to the table, but also what is the impact it's creating? That's the important piece, the impact, because your personal purpose, your why, it's not about you. It's about the impact you make on others. And if we can understand what we love doing, what we're really good at, and the impact it creates, that is an entire world full of opportunity for you. I talk about unlocking potential, not finding it or discovering it or whatever. It's about unlock because it's already inside of you. And she talks a lot about that inner ideas and that inner growth that we need in order to have some outward impressions and outward growth. Random encounters are not random. Well, the way she says is incidental encounters are not incidental. Never too late. Something that we need to make sure that we hold on to. And this idea of, is a seed taken? No, I saved it for you. How can we pour into other people? And I love the exercise of writing a letter. Writing that letter, if you haven't done that, try it. I have my clients write letters at times for certain purposes. This is something that's important. And I'm not talking about an email. You're not writing an email. Write a handwritten letter, people. I'm going to challenge you. Handwritten letter. You do that, people be like, oh, You actually picked up a pen and you wrote a letter and you put a stamp on an envelope and you sent it to me. That shows some effort that we don't really make anymore. So I challenge you to do that and understand those values. Your values are core to who you are, and they should be in every element of your life. So I'm grateful for you for being here. If you want to find out more about me, you can go to skotwaldron.com and you can like, subscribe on my YouTube channel, do all that stuff, please, comment, stuff like that. Anywhere you want to listen to podcasts, please find me there as well. I'm on all the streaming services. And last but not least, please like and review and stuff on the podcast channel. And if you want to do that, I would really, really appreciate it. If you have any questions for me, please reach out. Otherwise, I'll see you next time on another episode of Unlocked.